In the past few months, I have done a bunch of videos on repotting succulents and pruning succulents, dividing succulents and separating them into different pots. So today I thought I would give you an update on a bunch of these plants and show you where they're at after a few weeks or a few months. One big preface to all of this is I had a very bad outbreak of powdery mildew, and I ended up throwing away about $150 worth of plants, but it just was not worth letting that continue to spread to other plants, having to throw away more. I spent a lot of time and effort trying to treat it, and in the end, I did curb the powdery mildew on a few plants, but it was easier just to throw some away rather than try and treat them all. Some of the plants that I showed you videos of previously did get attacked by the powdery mildew and got thrown away. Let's go ahead and take a look at these plants. First up is this arrangement I got from my sister. This is about 6 months after I repotted it, and even after a video where I showed you a 3-week update. This thing has exploded. It has grown so much where these big Haworthia are taking over the pot, and honestly, it's almost ready to be repotted. I think I could put some of these into individual pots, which is my personal preference. There's nothing wrong though with letting it stay in this arrangement and letting it continue to grow. Just as a point of reference, if I go into the Succulent Tracker app, I can see this picture that I took today. So we're late August. This is the arrangement when I got it from my sister. And then this is what it looked like after I repotted it. And you can see these Haworthia are really taking over the arrangement, and they are much bigger than they were when I planted it. I do notice I'm getting some kind of smaller growth on these Crassula. They haven't grown quite as much, and the leaves are actually a little bit small, which can be from lack of consistent watering. It can also be from lack of light. Sometimes it can be from a mealybug or other pest infestation, which I have looked very closely, and that is not what's happening here. My guess is they're just not getting quite enough light and water. This is another one from the arrangement that I got for my sister. And while this hasn't grown a ton, it has really plumped up and it looks much nicer. I actually want to turn this into a bonsai, which will be a pretty long process, but I need to water it a lot more frequently than I am right now. I haven't taken a picture of this today, but here's what it looked like in January. And here's what it looks like now. You can see that it is a lot more plump and full, whereas it was very dehydrated and weak when I first repotted it. And then the last one I have from the arrangement for my sister is hiding way back here. I have this one a lot closer to the grow lights than a lot of my other succulents because I wanted to bring out that bright orange red color in it. Inside the Succulent Tracker app, I've been keeping a photo history. And while the changes are subtle from day to day, they are pretty drastic from the beginning to the end. So here you can see it's kind of a greenish color with maybe just a hint of orange. But as we scroll up through these images, I'm hoping you can see that it does get a lot darker orange. And really just swiping between here and here, hopefully you can see that change. It went from a very vibrant green to a very vibrant orange. So you can see I've been watering it on average every 12 days. Because it's so close to the grow lights, it can actually handle more water than it would otherwise. You can see it does have a really bright orange color, and the leaves are smooth, but the edges are kind of bumpy. They are very full, which means it's getting plenty of water. So this is one that I should definitely start cutting back on the watering frequency to let it kind of thin out a little bit, get even more stress color, and then hopefully put off some new growth on the bottom. I'm also probably going to add fertilizer to this one to help it grow a little faster. These two are both Graptivaria Fred Ives that I propagated a little while ago. So I cut off the top, there's some new growth happening, and I did get some individual cuttings from this. Most of them actually ended up getting powdery mildew, and I ended up throwing them away. The interesting thing to me about these Graptivaria that I chopped off is they have not actually grown very much considering how long ago I pruned or cut them. So that was back in August of this year, which was 6 months ago. And as you can see, they have really not grown very much, especially this one on the left. I have a couple theories as to why that is happening. One, I am inconsistent with watering. You'll find this is a common theme for me. But I also added some fertilizer, both this happy plant food that I was trying, and then worm castings. The worm castings were about 4 months ago, and I'm surprised that that didn't make as big a difference as I thought it would. I think the biggest issue though is actually that these are in a pot that is just too big for the size of plant. My theory is that these are growing a whole bunch of roots and it's not putting its energy into growing new babies. So I'm going to add these to my list to unpot and put into a new smaller pot later on. Here's another top from those cuttings. And this one actually had powdery mildew, but I was able to control it. And then I put some worm castings down, and that seems to have helped prevent it from popping back up on this plant. At the same time I pruned those Fred Ives, I also pruned these Echeveria and planted some itty bitty babies. So again, that was about 6 months ago. These are the cuttings that I took, and these rooted really well. The plants have grown pretty well, although I did lose a couple. And then this one is still very, very tiny. I just added some worm castings on it the other day to see if I can help it grow. But despite the fact that it is still very tiny, it has grown a fair amount since I planted it. So if I go in and open this up, you can see this is what it looked like on the very first day. I don't have a photo history of this one, but it is taking up more space in the pot. So I'm hoping with more consistent watering that this one will get a lot larger faster, in addition to having the worm castings. These other two little babies, you can see, did not even come close to filling these little 1-inch pots, but now they are filling them up, and this one in the back is actually about to expand over the edge of the pot. So I'm very happy with how those have grown. These cuttings, I'm going to go back and pull up the pictures here. So here's what it looked like the day that I planted the cuttings. And then as you can see, one of them died and the others are still growing. One of them though has stayed fairly small. Again, I really blame my inconsistent watering schedule for a lot of this. Then right back behind those, I have one more Graptiveria Fred Ives. This is what it looked like when I planted it. I put in some bare stems. Those did not survive. However, the one little stem with a plant on it did, and it is still looking good. This is the last planter of Echeveria that I had from that same group where I pruned a bunch and replanted them. Here's what they looked like when I first planted them. So you can see there was a bare stem and then the original base and one little cutting. And then here is what they look like now. It's pretty normal to have some stems die, even some rosettes, but I'm very pleased overall with how well these have survived over the past 6 months. Next up, we have these Sedum burrito. So if you'll recall with these, I had a big plant that I divided into a couple different pots, and then I also took a ton of babies for propagation. I do feel like these are fairly slow growing considering they are also about 6 months old, but I like seeing them there. And again, I'm trying to get more consistent with my watering. Watering every day has been a challenge. I set good intentions of watering at least a few plants every day, and then things happen and I don't make it a priority, but these are still continuing to grow despite that. This is what the cuttings looked like when I first planted them in here. So you can see the day one and then also just a month later, which looks pretty similar. But now you can actually see these have gotten a lot taller and there's a lot more new growth on this stem. You may also recall that I bought these Haworthia at Walmart for just a couple dollars and they had a ton of babies on them. So my plan was to separate them all out. And I did that on one of the plants and realized none of those babies were big enough to have put off roots on their own. So I cut them off and I planted them on their own, but I left the other ones all intact. I think I'm about ready to unpot one of these that I left and see if they are maybe ready to be separated. However, the ones that I planted on their own, you can see have mixed results. They are still alive. These look like they have rooted and are growing because they're much more green and vibrant. The rest of these, however, have not gotten watered consistently enough. Remember I said this was a theme? So I am working to get back on track and watering these more consistently so that they will continue to grow faster. Even these two, this pot and this one back here, they haven't grown that much. And I think they've really only rooted just in the last few weeks, and that's why they're still a similar size, but just a little more vibrant and green than the others. Another 6-month update is these two Haworthia. So this Haworthia and that one were both in a pot with some Crassula rupestris, which I'll show you in just a minute. And they were in a 3-inch pot with those Crassula. So this one has really exploded and grown a lot. You can see it has a ton of new babies. This one was fairly small when I planted it, but it has also grown quite a bit. You can see it's a little bit more stressed than the other one. This baby is much darker red as opposed to a vibrant green like the bigger plant, but that's just a matter of watering combined with light. So these are on a shelf of my plant stand that is about 18 inches above the plant. So the lights are about 18 inches away from the plants, whereas these upper shelves are about 8 to 12 inches above the top of the plants. So it's not getting a ton of light, but it is still getting enough that with not quite enough water, these will start to stress and get a little bit more reddish. But as you can see, if it's adequately watered, it will stay a nice, vibrant green. So here's a picture of that one in the back when it was potted, again, about 6 months ago. And here's how it looks now. So it has gotten a little bit bigger, but mostly that little baby has gotten stressed and it's just kind of spread out a little bit more. Then here's the one in the front. So you can see it did still have some babies on it, but I think it has gotten a lot more and they have definitely gotten bigger. The plant in the middle, the main plant, has also gotten a lot bigger. Here are the Crassula that those Haworthia were planted with originally. And I've actually made cuttings of these since I separated it from the Haworthia. So this is a double update for this one, because I showed you how I separated these and put together the plump cuttings and the cuttings that were dried out. So let's take a look at those really quick, what they used to look like. So if we go back to 2022, here you can see the Haworthia with the Crassula together. And then in 2023, this looked really sad, very stressed. And here it is in 2024, where I just had the Crassula in this pot. And then you can see before I chopped them up, we had some that were kind of drying out and some that were still fairly plump. And then these are just the plump cuttings. If I pull on these, they are not coming out, which means they have rooted. They were just very dry, bare stems. So I'm impressed that these rooted so quickly. By comparison, this set in the back was very dehydrated, very dried out, and I wasn't sure if any of these cuttings would survive just because they were so thin and underwatered before I planted them. However, it looks like we kind of have half and half going here. So half of them have rooted and started to grow and plump up. They definitely have roots because if I pull on these, it pulls up the whole pot. These actually have roots. Well, maybe not. You just kind of pulled that out. Okay, it looks like there's a couple roots growing. So it looks like these may actually still recover. So I'm gonna leave them in there and see what happens. A lot of Crassula will tolerate more water than other succulents. And I had planted these into the magic succulent soil to help give them a little boost with holding onto water more in the soil. If nothing else, if I feel like these definitely don't need more water and these still do, I can pull these out and pot them somewhere else. This next update is a little bit more sad. I put together 8 of these arrangements and I actually only have 2 of them left. Well, 2.5. So this is the second one and then here's the half. And what happened with this is I got a really bad powdery mildew outbreak. And I had all of these new arrangements along with a bunch of plugs that I had gotten all on these shelves. And I think because they were so close together, along with all of these newer plants that I had gotten from Leaf and Clay, that when the powdery mildew got on one of those plants, it just spread so quickly to all of the rest. And I did my best to treat it and try and combat it, but in the end, I ended up just throwing away a bunch of plants so I didn't have to worry about it spreading anymore. But the ones where the treatment worked or the powdery mildew didn't get to them, they are doing well and continuing to grow. The very first place I noticed the powdery mildew was actually on one of these Echeveria crinoline. And I had a bunch of cuttings of this that I had planted and they were growing really well, but then the powdery mildew got the best of them, and I am left with this one plant. Here's a quick look at the other 4 of those that are in the memory garden now in the Succulent Tracker app because they are no longer with us. So the update with those is they were growing really well. They had rooted, they were growing more compact, because if you had watched that video, you would have known they were stretched out from not getting enough light. So they were recovering quite well until the powdery mildew got them. Another update is the string of hearts. This one has not filled in quite as much as I was hoping for, but it is very well rooted, it's growing well, and some of these were pretty dehydrated when I planted them, so I am pleased with how it currently looks. If I pull this one up really quick here in the Succulent Tracker app, you can see what it looked like when I got it from the nursery, and then this is what it looked like when I planted it. So there was actually quite a bit of green, bright green leaves, whereas now we have a lot more blue-green, kind of purple and pink leaves, which is really what you want from a variegated string of hearts. These have done really well. I keep putting the little strands back into the pot to help it just continue to fill up in here, and then eventually we'll let it trail over. I do have this string of turtles that is doing incredibly well. Again, I keep putting these little strands back on top just to help it get a deeper or stronger root system. But I love seeing all of the detail on these new little leaves that are growing. From a similar point in time, I have this Sedum nussbaumerianum. When I got it, it was bright green like you see here, but it didn't have any signs of red or orange. So when I repotted it, my goal was to get it to kind of color up a little bit more. And this one I've actually had a hard time keeping it plump and full. I had it soak in water for a while to try and fill it up, but I seem to not be watering it as much as it would like. However, the lower watering amounts also help bring out the color. So I'm trying to find that balance of giving it enough water that it stays healthy, but also underwatering it enough and getting it close enough to the grow lights that the rest of the plant turns bright orange. When I replanted that, I also put a bunch of leaves out on this tray. Similar to the sedum burritos, these are growing, but they haven't gotten a ton bigger. Again, I attribute that mostly to a fairly inconsistent watering schedule. I also put a few of them up here on my propagation tray individually, and similar, they are growing. They're probably a little bit bigger than the ones I just showed you that were all together, but still taking their time to get bigger. This is a little bit more of a recent update, but I potted these little itty bitty Echeveria a few weeks ago, and most of them are starting to root and do pretty well. These over on the right-hand side seem to be doing better than the small ones. When I planted these, I put worm castings on top to try and help encourage more root growth and help the top stay wet a little bit longer. Here's what they looked like right after I potted them. So you can see they're a lot more pink, they're a lot more shriveled up and underwatered, whereas here they're much more green and full, which indicates to me that they are growing and putting off new roots. Also a little more recently, I repotted these Haworthia. These two I planted in magic succulent soil, and they have really brightened up. They've gotten a lot more full and they've grown quite a bit. These are the same type of plant, but I put them just in the gritty mix. They've been watered about the same frequency as the other ones, but you can see they really have not plumped up as much and they are not growing as fast either. So I'm thinking that the magic succulent soil really does help kind of kickstart plants that need a bit more water in the early days. At the same time I repotted those Echeveria, I also took cuttings from this rainbow kalanchoe or lavender scallops. These have rooted, so if you can see if I kind of pull on these, they don't pull out, which is exciting, and they're getting a bunch of new little babies on the edges, which I love. So these are very happy in their new home. Last but definitely not least, I want to show you what has happened with this grow light setup that has been on my desk. You may remember I wanted to do very colorful succulents and just kind of prove you can use a regular LED light to keep succulents colorful and happy in an area with absolutely no direct sunlight. If we pull this up in the Succulent Tracker app, you can see I've been watering it on average every 9 days, and I have been quite consistent with this one, so I feel really good about that. So here's a picture of it just about a week ago. Here is a picture of what it looked like when it was first planted. So July 3rd, but take a look at what happens just in the next week. So in 9 days, pay close attention to the sedum that's in the corner there. Look at how it starts to shift to be more orange just in a couple days. These were all under grow lights before, but this light is much closer and probably more intense. And just a couple of days made a huge difference in the color. And then if we shift here, you can see it has gotten even more colorful. And the thing that I also think of is impressive is this Echeveria is further away from the light than the other two plants. These are both a lot taller. So this isn't getting quite as much light as the rest. There's a lot of fall off from grow lights where even just an inch or two can make a huge difference. But as you can see, we have really nice pink, purples, and blues in the colors of the leaves there. And the Senecio are really nice and blue-green. That sedum is just a beautiful orange and green. And overall, I am so happy with how this is growing with very little effort. And like I said, no natural light at all, just this grow light. One other quick thing I want to show you with this one, if you look at the Senecio in the top right corner here, it's pretty deflated and underwatered. And like I said, the sedum is pretty orange. But after I watered it, the sedum opened up a little bit more. The Senecio, you can see, plumped back up, but the sedum actually got a little bit more green because it got more water. So it was a deeper orange here, but my Senecios weren't getting enough water. The Echeveria seemed fine. So I increased my watering frequently slightly here. These two, I would say, improved overall. The Senecio definitely, and even the sedum still looks good. It still looks like it's the right color to me. It's not quite as deep an orange, but I will take that in order to keep those Senecio happy. Hopefully you enjoyed seeing that update on some of these plants that I worked on about 6 months ago. It's amazing to me to see both how much and how little can happen in 6 months' time. I would not have realized how long ago it was that I actually worked on these Echeveria and the Haworthias and everything that I repotted. It was so nice to have it all documented inside the Succulent Tracker app. So I had a really perfect history of what has happened to those plants since then. I could do a better job at just actually watering more often. And I'm working on doing more weekly photos of succulents, but with 250 plants, I can't take a picture of them every week. That's more time than I want to spend, but I do have a handful that I'm taking pictures of every week so that I can see the progress on them. And it's so helpful to just have it all saved side by side in the Succulent Tracker app. So if you haven't given that a try, I highly recommend it. You can use it for free for up to 5 plants. And then after that, it's just $3 a month or $30 a year. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe, share it with all of your succulent loving friends, and I will see you next time.